Hi, I'm Tina, and this is the Sisterhood Sleuths podcast, created by Cathy Warshaw of Secret Societies and the Sisterhood Sleuths, where we don't just accept what we're told, we question it, because secrets are everywhere, and curiosity is the key. So let me ask you something. Why do people lie? Not the obvious lies, not the ones that are easy to spot, the quiet ones, the ones that sound real, the ones that almost feel true, the ones that slip into conversation without being noticed. Why do people hide the truth? Most people think they know the answer, to avoid trouble, to protect themselves, to protect others. And sometimes that's true, but not always, because the real reasons people hide the truth are much deeper and much harder to see. Let's slow this down. Imagine you're talking to someone. They're telling you something and everything sounds fine. The words make sense, the story flows, but something feels off. Not wrong enough to call out, but not right enough to ignore. That's your signal. Because here's the truth. People don't just hide the truth with lies. They hide it with partial truth. And partial truth is much harder to detect. Because it sounds real. It includes facts. But it leaves something out. And what's left out is often the most important part. Now imagine Chloe in that moment. She's listening, not just to what's being said, to what's missing. Because she knows something most people don't. When someone hides the truth, they don't always change the story. They remove pieces of it. And those missing pieces create gaps. Subtle ones, but real. Now Lily would catch this instantly. Not by focusing on what's there, but by noticing what should be there and isn't. Because a complete story has a certain structure, a flow, a consistency. And when something is missing, that flow breaks, even if it's small. Now let's go deeper. Have you ever noticed how people answer questions? Not just what they say, how they say it. You ask something simple, they give a long answer. Or you ask something direct, and they answer around it. Not wrong, just indirect. That's not random. That's intentional. Now let's make this real. You ask, did you finish what you said you would do? Instead of answering yes or no, they say, I've been really busy lately. A lot has been going on. That's not an answer. That's a redirection. And redirection is one of the most common ways people hide the truth. Now, Gil would notice that immediately, because he doesn't just listen to answers. He listens for alignment. Does the answer match the question? If it doesn't, that matters, because people who are being direct answer directly. People who aren't, don't. Now let's go deeper again. Why do people do this? Why not just tell the truth? Because truth has consequences, and people try to control those consequences. If the truth makes them look bad, they adjust it. If the truth creates conflict, they soften it. If the truth reveals something they want hidden, they avoid it. That's human behavior, not always malicious, but important to understand. Now, Yuki would approach this differently. She would look at patterns. Does this person avoid direct answers often? Do they change topics when something specific is asked? Do they provide information, but not the right information? Because one moment might not mean anything. But repeated behavior, that's a pattern. And patterns tell the truth. Now let's go deeper. People don't just hide the truth with words. They hide it with timing. A delayed response, a hesitation, a pause before answering. Not always obvious, but noticeable. Because when someone is telling the truth, their response is usually natural. When they're adjusting it, it takes time. Even if it's just a second, that second is information. Now, Luca would take this further. He wouldn't just listen, he would test. Ask the question in a different way at a different time from a different angle. Because if the answer changes, that tells you something. Consistency reveals truth. Inconsistency reveals adjustment. And adjustment means something is being controlled. Now let's go deeper again. People also hide the truth through emotion. Strong emotion, defensiveness, anger, distraction. Because emotion shifts the focus. Instead of looking at the truth, you're reacting to the emotion. And that's intentional. Not always consciously, but effectively. Now May would notice this immediately. She wouldn't get pulled into the emotion. She would stay focused on the pattern. Because emotion can distract, but it doesn't change the underlying truth. Now Aoife would expand this. She would look at behavior over time, not just one conversation, many. Does this person consistently avoid certain topics? Do they react strongly when specific things come up? Do they shift patterns when questioned? Because truth is stable, but hidden truth creates patterns of avoidance. And those patterns are visible if you're paying attention. Now let's bring this back to you. You've experienced this before. Moments where something didn't feel complete, answers that didn't fully answer, reactions that felt off. And now, you're starting to understand why. Not everything is said, not everything is shown. And that's where awareness begins. Because once you realize that, you stop taking everything at face value. You start looking deeper, listening differently, questioning more carefully. And that changes everything. Because now, you're not just hearing words, you're understanding what's behind them. Now let's go further. Because once you understand that people hide the truth, the next question is, how do you recognize it? Not guess, not assume, recognize. Because the signs are there, always, but they're subtle, and most people miss them. Not because they're hidden well, because they're not looking for the right things. Let's break this down. The first sign is misalignment. What someone says doesn't fully match what they do. Not dramatically, subtly. Their words say one thing, their behavior suggests something else. Now imagine this. Someone tells you, "I'm not worried about it." But their actions? They keep checking, they keep asking, they keep circling back. That's misalignment. And misalignment means something isn't fully true. Now Chloe would catch this immediately. Because she doesn't separate words from behavior. She connects them. And when they don't align, she pays attention. Now Lily takes this deeper. She looks for consistency over time. Does the story stay the same? Do the details shift? Do the explanations change slightly? Because truth holds. It doesn't need to be adjusted. But when something is hidden, it requires maintenance. And that maintenance creates inconsistency. Now let's go to the second sign, over-explaining. Have you ever asked a simple question and gotten a long answer? More detail than necessary, more explanation than expected? That's not random. That's control. Because when people feel the need to manage how something is perceived, they add more detail, more context, more explanation, hoping it sounds complete. But sometimes it becomes too much. And that too much is a clue. Now Gil would notice this instantly because he understands something critical. Truth is usually simple. It doesn't need layers. It doesn't need to be defended. But when something is being adjusted, it becomes complicated. And complication is where clues appear. Now let's go deeper. The third sign is avoidance. Not obvious avoidance, subtle. You ask a question, they answer something else. Not completely unrelated, but not direct. Or they shift the topic slightly. Or they answer part of the question, but not all of it. That's avoidance. And avoidance is one of the clearest signs that something is being hidden. Now let's make this real. You ask, "What happened after that?" They respond, "Well, before that, there was something else." They're not answering, they're redirecting. And that redirection is intentional. Now Luca would test this immediately. He would ask again, same question, different wording. And if the answer continues to shift, that tells him everything he needs to know. Because truth stays stable. Avoidance moves. Now let's go to the fourth sign. Timing. When someone answers, how quickly, how slowly, because timing reveals processing. A natural answer comes quickly, not rushed, but natural. When someone has to adjust the truth, it takes time, even if it's just a second. That pause is information. Now imagine this. You ask a simple question. There's a pause. Then the answer comes. Most people ignore that pause, but an observant person, they notice it because something happened in that moment, a decision, an adjustment, a choice. And that matters. Now, Yuki would track this like data. She wouldn't focus on one pause. She would look for patterns. Does it happen consistently in similar situations with similar questions? Because repeated timing shifts reveal something deeper. Now let's go to the fifth sign. Emotion as distraction. Strong emotion, defensiveness, frustration, anger. Not always real, sometimes strategic. Because emotion shifts the focus. Instead of looking at the truth, you're reacting to the emotion. And in that reaction, the original question gets lost. Now, May would recognize this immediately. She wouldn't get pulled into the emotion. She would stay focused on the pattern. Because emotion doesn't answer the question. It avoids it. Now let's go deeper again. People also hide the truth through partial answers. They give you something, just not everything. Enough to feel complete, but not enough to reveal the full picture. That's one of the hardest things to detect, because it feels real, but it's incomplete. And incomplete truth can be more misleading than a lie. Now, Aoife would connect all of this. Not just one sign, all of them. Misalignment, inconsistency, over-explaining, avoidance, timing, emotion. Because one sign can be explained, but multiple signs? That's a pattern. And patterns tell the truth. Now let's bring this back to you. You're starting to see more. Not just what people say, how they say it, when they say it, what they avoid. And now, you're not just listening, you're understanding. That's the shift, from hearing information to seeing truth. And once you reach that level, you don't get confused easily. You don't accept things blindly. You don't miss what's right in front of you, because you know what to look for. But there's one more step, and it's the most important one. What do you do with what you see? Because recognizing truth is one thing. Responding to it is something else entirely. Now you see it. Not perfectly, not all at once, but enough. Enough to recognize when something isn't fully true. Enough to notice when something is being hidden. And now comes the part most people never reach. What do you do with that awareness? Because seeing the truth and handling the truth are not the same thing. Let's go back to that moment. You're in a conversation. You notice the signs. The misalignment, the hesitation, the avoidance, the subtle shift that doesn't belong. Before, you might have ignored it. Now, you don't. But you also don't react immediately. That's the difference. Because reacting too quickly can shut everything down. People close off, they become more guarded, and the truth becomes harder to reach. So what do you do instead? You stay controlled, you stay aware, and you move carefully. Let's step into this like a real sleuth. Chloe doesn't confront right away. She observes more, because one moment is not the full picture. She allows it to develop. She gathers more information. Because clarity comes from patterns, not single moments. Now Lily would take this further. She wouldn't accuse. She would ask. Not aggressively, not obviously, carefully. Questions that open, not close. Because when people feel attacked, they defend. When they feel understood, they reveal. That's the balance. Now Gil approaches this with strategy. He doesn't need to prove anything immediately. He needs to understand. So he watches, tracks behavior, looks for consistency over time. Because the more information he gathers, the clearer the truth becomes. And when the truth is clear, he acts, not before. Now, let's go deeper. Because here's what most people get wrong. They think the goal is to expose the truth. It's not. The goal is to understand it. Because once you understand it, you can decide what to do. Expose it, address it, step away from it. But if you act too early, you risk misunderstanding. That's why control matters. Now let's bring in Yuki. Yuki doesn't react emotionally. She analyzes. If something doesn't align, she tracks it. She gathers data, not assumptions. And once the pattern is clear, she acts. That's precision. Now May would go even deeper. She would ask, what's driving this behavior? Because most people don't hide the truth for no reason. There's always a cause. Fear, control, protection. And when you understand the cause, you understand the behavior. That's where real clarity comes from. Now Aoife would step back. She would look at the full pattern, not just one moment, many. Because truth doesn't reveal itself in a single interaction. It builds through repetition, through consistency, through connection. And when you see that full pattern, you don't need confirmation. You know. Now let's bring this back to you. You're seeing more, you're recognizing the signs, and now you're staying in control. Not reacting emotionally, not rushing to conclusions, but observing, understanding, and then deciding. That's the shift. From being influenced by what you hear to understanding what's really happening. And that gives you something powerful. Choice. Because once you see clearly, you can choose how to respond. Not react. Respond. There's a difference. Reaction is immediate. Response is intentional. And intention is where control lives. Now here's the truth. Not every hidden truth needs to be confronted. Sometimes the most powerful move is simply knowing. Knowing what's real, knowing what's not, and adjusting your actions accordingly. That's awareness at its highest level. Not needing to prove, not needing to argue, just understanding and moving with clarity. Now think about that. How different would your decisions be if you saw clearly? If you recognized patterns early? If you understood what was being hidden before it affected you? That's the advantage you're building. Not perfection, clarity. And clarity changes everything. Because when you see clearly, you don't get pulled into confusion. You don't get misled easily. You don't accept things at face value. You understand. And understanding is power. So the next time you notice something, don't ignore it. Don't rush it. Stay with it. Observe. Let the pattern reveal itself. And then decide. With clarity, with control, with awareness. This week, your mission is called Listen Beyond Words. During one conversation this week, become completely aware of how someone communicates, not just what they say. Pay attention to, did they answer the actual question? Did they avoid certain details? Did their words match their behavior? Did they suddenly become emotional, defensive, or distracted? Was there a pause before an answer? Your mission is not to judge people or accuse anyone. Your mission is to strengthen your awareness. After the conversation, write down one thing the person said, one thing they avoided, one moment that felt off, one pattern you noticed. Then ask yourself, what was the conversation really telling me? Because real sleuths understand something important. The truth is not only found in words. Sometimes it's hidden in hesitation, in redirection, in what's missing. And the more carefully you observe, the more clearly you begin to see. This is the Sisterhood Sleuths podcast, where understanding becomes your advantage and awareness becomes your strength. In the next episode, we go even deeper, the psychology of secrets, and why some truths are hidden for years. Until then, stay aware, stay curious, and remember, secrets are everywhere. Curiosity is the key.
This episode was brought to you by Secret Societies and the Sisterhood Sleuths, an award-winning mystery adventure franchise featuring books, podcasts, music, educational programs, puzzles, and a global community for curious minds. Join the conversation with fellow sleuths right now in our official Goodreads Mystery Club. Learn more at sisterhoodsleuths.net.